tell me.
I feel like you probably did that.
No.
At that point, right? Ooh, ooh, earthquake.
Yeah, you say things like, "Oh, we were just seeing who would notice that."
Let's blame autocorrect. Not if you write the sign though. You could at the time you couldn't, but
No.
that'd be funny now. Oh, autocorrect. Is that your handwriting?
Yeah.
Hey, hello.
Happy New Year. Is anybody out there?
Yeah, they're out there. They're out there.
I don't see them.
That's because you have poor eyesight.
True.
It's right here. It's on top of the
number?
Sherpa, so you can't.
But that's like numbers.
It's like numbers. It's not like numbers. It is numbers.
It like counts as a okay.
Hi, Sherry. Hi, Linda. Hi, Judy.
I always wondered how you knew.
Nice. Hi, Sharon. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope 2020 is treating you well thus far.
All 7 days of it.
Well, we're not full 7 days.
Leave it to you.
Hi, Linda and Evelyn. I think I missed a couple in there. Hi to you guys too, and Rose. Woo! Well, we're here. We made it to 2020.
We did. I slept through the New Year, the midnight thing.
Nobody's surprised by that.
Well, I heard you slept through it too.
Yeah, I did. I made the choice. I weighed my options and said, meh.
I can't stay awake any longer.
Meh.
Meh.
I could have, but I just thought, what's the point?
And that's when you know you're getting old, Jets.
Oh, I already knew that. I got a laundry list of reasons that I know I'm getting old.
Okay, then.
I won't share them here, though.
Nah, I don't.
Or maybe just like sometimes. We'll start with that one. I didn't make it to midnight.
All right, then.
By choice. All right. Okay, so everybody's coming in. I know everybody's excited for the sew-along.
Every time you lean forward, I get washed.
Good.
Well, then stay still.
That's how I feel every time you show up late. I have to start the thing off like that. But I never complained about it.
Yes, you have. You're the one I had to paint the walls so your coloring would be appropriate.
Although it's not great today. It's the winter.
Yeah, it's that winter white look.
I have to go somewhere tropical. Okay. So we have a question. And
Before we get started?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I'm not sure if you're gonna. It was about the last video, and I know we're gonna touch on that. So we might not need to answer it now. I'm not sure if this is part of what you're gonna go over. It's about cutting out the Sherpa.
What's the question?
Because the Sherpa one was narrower.
Yeah.
Are you gonna discuss that again, or they need to go back to the other video, or?
You will lay it out exactly as I'm going to show you on the regular width fabric. The Sherpa is slightly narrower, but you'll have to alter the pattern.
She says I have to take an inch or two off the pattern. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And you'll want to go look at that video, and you're taking 2 inches out of each side in the front and the back. So it's a 1 inch mark that you fold over. But you'll see it in the last video. What was the date?
December 18th.
December 18th. Go look at that one, and it'll show you exactly how to alter the pattern to fit on the Sherpa or any other fabric that might be a tad narrow for your easy cape.
All right, so real quick, if you guys did not see the newsletter this week, Janet is running a flash sale.
Till Friday at midnight.
Till Friday at midnight on Easy V kits and Islander shirt kits. So the Islander shirt was the last sew-along that we did. Both of these kits are already 20% off because of the bundling of the kit. And right now it's an extra 10% off of that.
Till midnight on
with
Friday.
the code HAPPY, all caps, HAPPY, till Friday night. There's the flash sale on that, so don't forget. We froze. No, just kidding. And that is my only announcement before we get going into
the Easy Cape Sew-Along.
The Easy Cape Sew-Along.
Well, we're really excited to get this one going, and a great project for the first of the year. Something that'll keep you cozy and warm. And I know quite a few of you bought the kits. We still have kits available, so if you haven't purchased a kit, go ahead and take a look on the website. And they're also marked down, I think some of them are more than 20% because they're bundled. But they are all Polar Tech, so they're real high-end polar fleece fabric. And but you may have purchased a pattern and have your own fabric, and we want to help you just as much as someone who's bought our kit. So we want to help everybody be successful. And so there's a few different versions other than what you see in the pattern, because the pattern, there's just a version with a hood and one with a collar instead of a hood, and that's it. But because we've used some different specialty Polar Techs, like the red one with the long nap, or the black with the curly, or the Sherpa, they're specialty fabrics, so we are going to give you the extra tips to be successful with those as well. They need just a little different engineering is all. And so you don't have to try to figure that out, because we've already done that for you. We made the samples, we've got our notes, and we're going to share them with you. So before we get started, remember we talked on December 18th about what you need. So you need your fabric, and you may want to use a trim. So check the pattern, decide what you want to do, whether you want to put a collar or a hood, or you want to use a faux fur trim, or you want to use the same fabric or something similar. Any of that will work. You want to use polyester thread. I got quite a few questions about that, and I was kind of surprised because I construct everything with polyester thread. You know, I complain a lot about some polyester fabrics, but I never complain about polyester thread. And it's strong, it's resilient, it looks nice, no reason, and that's what everyone in the industry uses now. It's a polycore, poly-wrapped. We used to have a polycore cotton wrapped, and they've done away with that because it's just not as strong. It's not as resilient. So, so polyester thread, good quality. So you know what those brands are. A size 14 universal needle will work on any of the Polar Techs. Now, if you've gone and purchased like one of the licensed Polar Techs or the lighter weight ones that you can find at Joann's, maybe it's got your home team on it or something, you don't need a 14 for those. You can do 11, 12 for those because it's a much lighter fabric. Make sure that you've got a nice sharp rotary cutter. If you haven't changed your blade lately, it's got the guard on.
I don't trust you.
Change the blade and get ready. If you are cutting out something like the red, the ruby with the long fur, this is really helpful because that is so plush that you kind of need the bigger blade to get through the thickness of it. But it will, polyester, especially polar fleece or Polar Tech, will dull your blade faster than other fabrics, most other fabrics. So just keep that in mind. If it starts skipping and you're having problems, that's what you need to do. For those of you who are working with the heavy nap, and that would be the ruby, red and black long fur, the black curly fur, and the fur trim. And I know I already saw some of your posts about opening up that fur trim from your kit, and you had black fuzzies everywhere. Well, yes, that's what's going to happen. And we're going to, if you haven't taken it out yet, don't take it out till we give you some tips. But that's where you're going to want to vacuum. So when I laid out my entire cape in the red one with the long fur, or the black one with the curly fur, and I cut it out, when I took my pieces off, there was a complete perfect outline of every piece I cut out in fur that was slightly embedded into my mat, and some of it was just laying on there. So you get out your vacuum cleaner with the wand on it. Don't go brushing it off because it's so lightweight, it'll just float everywhere. And if you're sewing inside your house proper, like many people do, you don't want those little fuzzies falling in your dinner tonight. So keep that in mind. Get that vacuum and suck that up first before you go to clean your mat off. And I showed them, I think, on the 18th, exactly how to clean the fuzzies that get embedded by using an eraser, a specific type of eraser. So again, if you need that, go back and review that one on the 18th. And then, by all means, you'll need a full lint roller. You know, these with the paper tape on them, and once it gets all full of lint like this, then you just rip the paper off, and you've got another sticky piece underneath. You'll need this for almost all of it, for the faux fur and any of the long napped. The regular, just basic Polar Tech, it doesn't really shed that much. It's a knit fabric. It doesn't really let go of a lot of the fur. It's just the long nap stuff and the faux fur.
And you're talking about when you cut it. This isn't going to be a problem like as they're walking around the grocery store.
No. Once it's constructed,
make that clear.
It's never going to happen.
It's just the cutting of it. It's not a forever. Mm-hmm. You won't be a dog shedding.
Yeah, it will never shed again. Well, it's just the edges, and when you cut it, actually, is the big issue, is when you're cutting it, because you are cutting some of that, so then it just lays there. Okay, so make sure you've got a lint roller handy, your vacuum handy, and then you won't have everybody in the family upset because you got fuzzies all over everything.
Up their nose, mostly.
Oh, yeah.
I left here on the 18th, like...
Okay.
Something.
So now what we want to do is talk about just the basics of laying, cutting, and marking and getting ready to start construction. So today I'm going to go over the layout, the cutting, and the differences in the view A, B. One has a hood, one has a collar instead. And the different fabrics, how to maybe just slightly different cutting or marking treatments. What else? I think that's kind of it. Of course, we're going to answer your questions. And
so just put them in the comments if you have a question. Don't be afraid. Don't feel shy. If you're thinking it, somebody else is, whether they're here or watching it later.
What's exciting is I've seen quite a few of the kits already made up because people were buying them and making them for Christmas gifts, so they didn't have time to wait for our tutorial. And they made them up, and they're beautiful. And by the way, Connie Woods, that is one special idea that you had. So Connie, she made up the Bordeaux with the black fur trim, and she lined the hood in a bamboo knit. And then she took her scraps and made the most gorgeous little mittens with the fur trim on the wrist.
I'll post about that on the page. You can see the other one on the page.
Yeah, there's another lady who did the same thing. I don't know whether she was inspired by Connie or she just had the same
or vice versa,
great idea at the same time. But they're adorable, and Connie made up the cape for, I think, a gift, and then the mittens to go with it. So what a fun idea and a great way to salvage the last few scraps of the fabric. So, yeah. Let's get, you want to get going? Or you got anybody asking?
I can leave?
No. Is anybody asking any questions that I can't read?
None for you to know about.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go over to my other side of the table.
While you go over there, go ahead. Just go. But while you go over there, Janet, I want to give a shout out to Sandra Stretton, because it is her birthday today.
Woohoo!
And she's with us for the sew along for her birthday.
All right. Happy birthday. Now, are you going to be able, you might need to stand up on a stool because I want you to get this whole...
Did you provide me a stool? Do I need to sign a waiver?
Here's your stool. Missy. We're coming.
They can see you.
Oh, they can.
I hope you're picking your nose or something.
No, I don't do that.
But you want me up there now?
Well,
I can see it all, but you want it from the top?
No, I just want to make sure they can see it all and understand each piece. So what you have in your pattern.
This is, hold on a second. This is all of it, you guys. But if you want something specific, just shout it out in the comments. And I can move closer or zoom in or whatever on what you want to see.
Okay, so if you've purchased 2.5 yards or you have bought one of our kits, this is how much fabric you'll have and this is how it will lay out. First and foremost, keep all the pieces going in the same direction. Now here I'm working on the antique gold, which is the 300 Polar Tack that's called double velour. And so it definitely has a nap, and you can tell when you run your fingers back and forth across it. So you want to, just like velvet or corduroy, keep everything going in the same direction. So the top of each pattern piece should be at the same orientation. You're going to have 6 pattern pieces. Real simple. Back goes on the fold. And then you have a front piece. And, yep, piece number 1. And then, and notice again, we talked about this last week, but the center front is not straight. When it hangs on the body, it hangs straight. But to get it to hang straight, it has to be at an angle. So if you're trying to match stripes or plaids, remember to keep it in this orientation when you cut it out. Don't try to turn it so that the front is on the straight of the plaid, because you throw the grain off of your entire project. Okay, so for the example of wanting to make one with a collar, not a hood, this is all you need. You have your front, your back, you want 2 cuffs, and you only need 1 collar. So don't cut 2 collars out, unfold the fabric. That way you'll be able to save that fabric for your mittens. Okay, so that's the collar. Now, if you want to do the view B, I believe it is, with the hood, then the collar goes away. You want the hood, and then you want the hood trim. Now this will only need 1 piece, so you'll open up the fabric, and you could do it at the other end, whatever way you want, long as you remember to keep all the pieces going in the same direction. Now, the only time that we cut the hood trim out of the same fabric was when we did the Sherpa. So you want to consider that, because normally you're going to, if you got the kit with the faux black faux fur in it, for the antique gold, for the Bordeaux, what was the other one? Do we do it on the silver, the pewter, antique gold, oh, and the Bordeaux. They all came with a black faux fur trim. Then you're going to cut the cuff and the trim out of the faux fur. If you're going to use the faux fur on one without a hood, then you're going to cut the collar out of the faux fur. Again, leaving you a little extra fabric to do your mittens or whatever else. So that's the basic for cutting out the 300 Polar Tack. So of what we sold you was that pewter that was velvety. It's called pewter velvet. And then we have the antique gold, the French Bordeaux, and I think that's it in the solids. Am I right? I think so. With the trim. Then I want to move on to talk about the specialty fabrics, the ones with the long fur. And for those of you who may not know what I'm talking about, this was a kit that we, actually I think we have a couple of these left. We have about 2 or 3 of these kits left, but this is almost looks like faux fur. It's actually Polar Tack, and it's a wind block Polar Tack. So you'll see on the back, this has been laminated to it. and it just adds that extra warmth and that extra wind block. And last episode, or the last show, somebody asked, could they put the black on the right side? And I immediately said no. And the reason is we tried that. We thought it'd be fun to do this one, black on the outside and turn the red for trim, just like kind of like what we did with the Sherpa, but it didn't look nice. It just doesn't have the right drape or something. It was just sort of fell flat, and we actually took it completely apart and turned it the other way. That's how much we didn't like it. So my recommendation is don't put the black on the outside. But this is, and you can see, once it's cut, it's not falling off much. And it's not going to continue to shed. But it will shed when you cut it. So that's one of our long napped ones. And I don't think there's any special cutting to this one. Let me look. Other than, again, keeping in mind that there's a nap. Go ahead.
Can you repeat for Mary? She wants you to say again which pieces are for the faux fur with no hood.
Faux fur no hood is collar and cuff, piece number 3 and 4. 2 pieces 3 because you got 2 cuffs, and 1 piece of 4. So remember, you don't want to cut this while it's folded because then you'll have 2 collars and you only need 1. Okay, so the curly black is another that we got in recently, and I know some of you have taken advantage of getting that kit, but it's also that fabric is available by yardage. And that's because I bought every last inch they had because you're not going to find it again. Some designer somewhere in the world had that milled for their line, and this was all that was left. And so I grabbed it. So that you could buy by the yard if you want to make something other than a cape out of it, or you can buy the kit. Now the Sherpa. The Sherpa, I want, when you cut that out, again, it's narrower by several inches than the other Polartex. So you'll have to go back to December 18 and check.
So they know what you're talking about.
Okay. So this is the Sherpa. Now this one has the nice Sherpa off-white fur. And then this has a laminate too, but this has a nice sheen to it and it drapes. So it's a different fabrication than the black with the red. So this one made an excellent cape on the right side, and I've been wearing mine and getting compliments. So we're going to make this the right side and trim with the same fabric just by turning it around. So the trim, and when we hem it, we're going to hem it to the right side. So we're going to hem this a little different, at a different time in the production of the garment than we are all the rest of the fabrics, because this hem turns to the right side, all the others turn to the wrong side. But this is a lovely fabric. You're lucky if you got this one because it's another one where I bought everything they had. And so it's not available anytime soon for sure. But again, it's a little bit narrower, but I tried it on for you last time too. So the cuffs, instead of coming down here, it comes here. And it actually was very convenient for shopping. So I thought it was great, and it didn't look wrong. It didn't look like, oh my gosh, your sleeves are too short. So it worked out just great. And for those of you who may need other adjustments, like making it wider or using a narrower fabric, you'll also find that in the December 18th episode. Okay, so let's see. The Sherpa and this red here, both, are very, because they've got the laminate on them, we found making a hood out of it was a little bit trickier because it's stiffer. The hood that's supposed to just round really nicely didn't round nicely. And Jessica, there was a hood made up, the first one we did. And it was in that stuff that Layla had.
I brought it out here and put it on the table.
Oh, where did it go? You'll find it. Okay, and so what we did with the Sherpa, and I'll show you that in the construction. There it is. we made a very narrow French seam. So when we did this with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, I don't know if I want them to see how this kind of ripples.
Yeah, you could see it.
Okay, good. So we top stitch it down, but then it just didn't lay nice. And those of you who bought these kits here are benefiting from all these little tests that we did and found didn't work. So what we did is we made a French seam. And the first go around, we trimmed it down extremely narrow and then restitched it. And oh, it's beautiful. It lays really nice. So we'll show you how to do that when we get to the construction of the hood. But you can't do that with this one because the nap on this is so much thicker than on the Sherpa that I'm afraid you're just going to have a lumpy mess. But I'm not sure about that. So to be sure about that, do what we did. You don't have to make a whole hood. You could just make a curved seam and stitch it and see if it'll work for you. Okay, so that takes care of... Okay, so then marking. Marking is going to be quite different because it's difficult, because there's such a thick nap on here, to mark this with chalk. It'll disappear. Even if you could get it to show up, by the time you went to sew, it'll be gone. So, and I don't like clipping in some cases on the polar fleece, particularly the Sherpa. Do not clip any notches because that Sherpa, those notches are going to show. So do not clip notches. What we're going to do to mark things is we are going to mark with pins, and we're going to mark with a concept called thread tracing. So we're either going to mark with pins or we're going to mark with thread tracing. So a pin is very simple. You just take one of your pins. It's great to have these with the little tab on them, but wherever there's a notch, you're just going to pin it after you cut it out. Just put that pin in where the notch is. Sometimes I don't even do that. I just take all the pattern pieces to the machine with me. Of course, you know I have a big flat surface around my machine, so I can just lay that down and pin it just before I sew it. Either way. But again, don't clip any of these notches. We're going to show you how to thread trace, and the only place that you can actually mark with chalk is again on this ruby, because it has the black. So you can mark the wrong side very easily with chalk. Okay? You can't do that on polar fleece because it will just disappear in just a few movements. It just, you know, obviously I made a crease, but look, almost gone, just from 2 brushes. Imagine folding it on, taking it to the machine, it'll be gone. So don't even try. All right, cut it out with a rotary cutter if you can. If not, obviously good old scissors work great. All right, I think, let's see, where am I? All right, now for those of you who are going to cut out your faux fur trim, and if it came with the kit, and most I think all faux furs do this, there's fuzzies everywhere. We've already talked about that. So the minute that you get it cut out, go over and do a narrow zigzag on the edges, just to keep it from continuing to do that until you get it constructed. So just a little, I think Brenda said she used a 3 width and a 10 length, just to keep it under control so it doesn't take off on you and float all over the broom. Now, on the faux fur, is the only place you're going to use interfacing. So if you got a kit with the faux fur trim, you also got a piece of our interfacing. So you're going to interface the cuff and the collar. Now, this is a little tricky because we're interfacing on that faux fur, which is totally synthetic. It cannot take a lot of heat. So be very gentle, working your heat up to only the exact temperature that you need to get it to stick, and using a pressing cloth. Very important. You hit that faux fur stuff with your iron, it's gonna melt and stick to your iron and be a nasty, nasty mess. So just carefully start with about a medium heat and see if you can get it to stick. If not, go a little bit warmer, but do it gradually till you get just the right heat. I wish I could tell you a setting, but everybody's iron has a different temperature gauge, and so I really couldn't tell you a setting, but we've been very successful. And if you don't put the interfacing in the faux fur, the collar won't stand up, and it's definitely meant to stand up. Now also keep in mind as to how tall that collar is. So if you are a no neck person like me, or a shorter neck person, you may want to trim that collar down because it stands up pretty high.
How much do you trim off?
You know, it's maybe you want to take an inch off. What you can easily do, I think, let me look at the pattern piece. If I had to cut this down, no, you cannot. Here's the thing, because this is how it is put on. It's folded in half and stitched on. So if I wanted to take an inch off, I have to do it before I cut it out, because it has to come off of here, from here to here, but you want to maintain the same shape, okay? So you're going to have to take it out. And if anybody needs help with that, it's pretty cut and dried. Let me know and we'll talk about it next week.
Okay, so I do have a couple questions.
Okay.
Mary asks, would a serger be too much thread?
It might be, but Mary, stick to 3 if you do it. Because here's what's going to happen, Mary. We're going to turn the cuff and the collar like this, right sides together, and stitch it, okay? Then that's all sealed once those seams are in here. So, and you'll just need to keep it under control here. So, just be careful. Don't put too much thread in it. 3 threads enough. If you can do a 2 thread on your machine, that's even better. You just need something just to hold it in place.
Steam or no steam on the interfacing?
No, be very careful with that steam, because if your iron's up hot enough to create steam, just make sure it's just barely hot enough to create steam. And again, like I said, you know what? Cut your item out and then take some scrap of the interfacing and the faux fur and go over to the iron and just play. Put it on a medium setting. If you can get it to stick, great. If you can't, take it up a little bit. If you can't, add a little steam or a little moisture with a wet press cloth. Because sometimes you have to get the iron up so hot to get it to steam that then it's too hot. But you can add some steam and moisture by just using a damp press cloth, like a little spray on the fabric. Okay, anything else, Jess?
That's what I got.
Okay, I think I've covered everything that we need to for the cutting and the marking. Let's see, I think, no. Well, I think, I'm going to give you this direction, and we'll see. We're going to thread trace the hem. So to thread trace the hem, I want you to kick your stitch length up to as long as you possibly can. Maybe it's 5, 5.5. Then you're going to stitch on the outside edge where the hem would be, 5/8 inch from the cut edge. Brenda? Yeah, 5, never mind. I want to make sure the hem was 5/8. Yeah, 5/8 inch from the cut edge. So you're going to do that on both fronts and also straight down the front. And you're going to do the same thing all the way around the back. Do your thread tracing. Then you're going to thread trace these corners, because you know we're going to need to reinforce that corner. So you can thread trace that just inside the seam allowance, but use a smaller stitch. So it's not really thread tracing now. I'm sorry I said that. It's really reinforcing. So you know how when you have to sew something to an inside corner like this, you must be able to clip this, so you need to stitch some reinforcement. And if you made the Easy V, we did that on the corners in the front of the Easy V. So you're going to stitch within a hair inside the stitching line on all the corners. So there's one on each front and there's two on the back. Reinforce those, and again, use your seam gauge on your machine. Now we've got that all taken care of.
Pamela wants to know if you'll be discussing how to match the plaids.
No.
Okay.
If she has any specific questions, I'd be happy to. I'd also direct her to, at the very bottom, I believe, of our videos is a video on matching plaids.
On the video page of our website.
Mm-hmm. And then you're going to, one last thing I want you to do in preparation for next week, and that is stitch the back to the front at the shoulder seams. At the shoulder seams. So here it is. This is our shoulder seam. Stitch the back to the front, to the front to the back, and then top stitch those seams down. So you're going to lay those seams out flat, and you're going to top stitch along the edge. You know what? If you grab that Sherpa, we can show them on that. Well, I can come over there, and I'll show them on the Sherpa.
Yeah, right. Real quick, I don't think you need to be there to answer the question, but just in case, thread trace only the hems, not the seams.
That's correct.
Okay.
You only need to trace the hems.
Mary wants to know, do you use a different color thread?
Yes, good, Mary, thanks. Use as high a contrast thread as you can. On something like this, I would use white. But you know, whatever you've got available, that's going to show up really well, because thread tracing is only temporary. So imagine you use chalk. Wherever you use chalk, you use thread, and then when you're done, instead of brushing the chalk off, you pull the threads out. So that's what that's all about. It's just giving us a line to fold our hem on. And you're going to love it. If you haven't done it before, you're going to love it, and you're probably going to use it more often. Okay, so I want to show you what the seam will look like that I'm talking about. So you'll just follow your pattern guide. You're going to stitch this seam. Shoulder seam is, I want to say it's a 1/2 inch, but it might be 5/8. But it's in the book.
Over here?
Yeah, I'm coming back. And let's see.
Woo!
Okay, so here is our Sherpa. Yeah, it sure looks like 5/8 seam, and it's laying flat and it's top stitched down. Now what you need to know is you can't press this. So it's just like working with faux leather, vinyl, or leather. The seams must be flattened down by stitching them, but and then show the other side as well, the right side. But you can't do it with an iron. So then you'll see it's all stitched down like that, and then it'll stay in place. Now on the Polar Tech 300, the antique gold, the pewter, those things, likely those will lay down flat. Those lay down flat on their own.
So if they have to put a center back seam in, they should press that down as well?
You can't press it.
Okay.
You cannot press it. You're going to have to stitch it. Just know that you're always going to have to stitch down any seam. You can do it a couple of different ways, but laying it open flat, stitching it from the wrong side, yes, I know those of you who follow me, I always say always top stitch from the right side. Well, there's always exceptions, and in this case, I would stitch it from the wrong side just because I don't have the aid of the pressing. to keep it in place. So I want to see what I'm doing, and there's a little loft there. Again, we're not using any pins or basting. It's not a difficult thing. I'm just trying to give you all the little tips and the nuances so that you will be very successful. So I think that'll take us. If you can get those shoulder seams in, stitch down, get your thread tracing for your hem, and what was the other thing? Oh, top stitch the sleeve down. Yeah. And reinforce those corners for where we're going to put the cuffs in. If you can do all that, then next week we're going to rock and roll. And we'll be moving right along. And again, the Sherpa's got a little different construction order than all the rest, but we will continue to call that out for those of you making the Sherpa. All right.
Any other questions? Any questions on what she talked about or getting prepared for next week?
Yeah. Or purchasing fabric or, notions kits, whatever. Anything I can help with, let me know. And like I said, we have quite a bit of the French Bordeaux, the antique gold. We have a very little bit left of the silver fox, which is the gray color. It's a beautiful gray.
And a little red?
2 reds, I think, is all we have left. And then we have that beautiful curly black stuff we showed you last time. So we've got a nice selection, I think, still.
There's a finished cape on the visitor post of our Facebook page. If you wanted to see somebody who's already finished one,
Is that
from one of our kits?
Is that Connie's, the Bordeaux?
No.
No?
No.
Well, she just sent me the pictures in
Yeah,
an email. Connie, post those pictures and post the mittens too, so everybody can be inspired.
Let me tell you, I'll see, because she posted the mittens right on the Facebook page.
And another thing is we did not line the Sherpa hood, but you can line the hoods, and I would use, if you are so inclined, use a lightweight knit. So we love the bamboo for that, and we have some, but I don't know if we'll have your color, but if we do, a half a yard of the bamboo knit will line your hood and it'll look beautiful forever. In the case of the really light polar fleece, like we talked about the licensing polar fleece with your local college or national football team on them, those are so lightweight that you can line the hood, self-line it. You can use the same fabric to line the hood in those.
Okay. Sharon Gray. Sharon posted her cape. She bought the kit and it's done, and she made the mittens. And it's great. So if you wanted to see that.
And were her mittens fingerless?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool too. Connie's are full mitten, but both of them came out really cute.
Yes, very cool. Yeah. What do we got here? Hold on, I gotta go back.
Yeah, lean this way so I don't look so yellow.
Will the interfacing included be able to be applied without steam?
Like I said, you got to work your way up to it. If it's just not quite sticking, maybe some steam will help. Maybe a little steam, and maybe you get that steam by taking a piece of muslin and spritzing it with water and laying it on there and then steaming.
We did not provide you anything in your kit that is not going to work to make your kit, I think is the key. But this might take a little bit of finessing depending on which of the fabric.
Well, the fun thing I think for you is that we've made all these capes, and you can see we've made them with really thick faux fur trim. We've done them in a lightweight, we've done them in a licensing, we've done them in a long nap. We've tested it many different ways. So when we put the kits together, we knew we were setting you up for a really successful. And of course, Connie and what was the lady's name?
Sharon.
Sharon, they were very successful. And and they made it just straight from the pattern. You're going to get the benefit of this video tutorial.
Now, Ethel's wondering if the silver can be made without lining the hood.
The only thing that's going to happen, Ethel, is that seam's going to show. So when your hood is down, that raw seam just sits there, and it may not matter to you, and to somebody else it may be, you know, the big deal breaker. So you can do it. It isn't going to hurt anything. All that lining does is cover up the interior to give it a finished look when the hood's off. That's all it's for. So it's entirely up to you.
Oh. Would you need to line a hood of the red faux fur?
I would not make it out of the red that we sold you in a hood without testing it. So I made only the collar. That backing that's on the red is stiff. It's stiffer than what the laminate is on the Sherpa. So it's much stiffer. As a matter of fact, you'll see, show them this one right here. Look how this collar stands up all by itself. This has no interfacing in it. It's just that laminate backing that makes it stand up like that. Look at that. So that's how stiff that is. So if you try to put that stiffness into a rounded hood, you're going to have to do some real finessing. And you may have some ideas and tricks on how you want to do that. But I would definitely line that hood. I don't think it would be comfortable, as comfortable with that laminate. It's kind of a, what would you say? It's just, it's a dry, like a, it's not slick at all. It's
Okay.
not, yeah. So, but again, you do what you want to do, but what I've decided to do to make it successful is not make that one with the hood. Now you'll see with the red, we didn't even trim it in the black or any other color. We use only the Polar Tech for the whole thing. So it's a total monochromatic jacket, but sometimes that's a good look. You'll see everything else is trimmed, and that one is the only one that's monochromatic. And again, I put this on last episode, so your last show, so you'll be able to see that on as well. So there's nothing wrong with it, and some people prefer a monochromatic look and don't want the trim. So you just make that decision. But if you got the red and you decide, oh, I don't want all red, I need to break it up, go to your local Joann's and buy some inexpensive faux fur, or
you could buy the curly.
You could buy the curly, or you know, there's any number of things that you could do. Absolutely.
Pamela's wondering how many sessions this will be.
Well, we have 2 more.
So 3 altogether, but there will be
A break.
1 week off because Janet has a trip.
I will be in New York City buying fabric.
If anybody wants to go.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know. I'll be going to the textile show, but I'll also be hitting up some of the jobbers, the street stores that you can travel to right off the street, including Mood. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm going the 19th through the 22nd, so I will miss the 21st. But Jessica will
I'll
probably
gather some stuff up. It's getting hard for me to sit here. I'm a little bit further away than normal because the fabric is coming out from under the table, which means it's time to maybe get rid of some.
Well, I have to let her get rid of something because I want to buy more. So, got to do it. But anyways, yeah, I'll be in Manhattan the 19th.
So, but we will be back next week with the second episode of the Sew Along. Marcia wants to know, will satin work for the lining?
No.
I could finish asking the question.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
That's all.
No, you want to know why, Marcia? And Connie had asked me this too. Then your hood won't stay up. Think about it. If you got satin lining, you're going to put your hood up and it's going to go right back down.
It's very nice for your hair.
Yeah, Yeah, yeah.
But a satin lined hood needs more of a drawstring type hood to keep it from constantly slipping off.
Right. So you could modify this with a drawstring, but I don't think you want to. It's totally up to you. But the knit works beautiful. This one has a knit lining in it.
So somebody asked if this was plaid. It's not a plaid, it's just a black and red.
It's a luscious, long faux fur that I bought at a nice, really nice store.
It's just got the red.
And then I used a red knit lining for the hood. Yeah, you can go crazy with the fur. Brenda and I, when we were first making them, I went and bought this fur, which is very lush. And she bought another one that was even longer fur, white with little black tips on it, and put it on a really beautiful black shiny polar tuck. And it makes an evening jacket that way. And you use that fancy faux fur. So don't be afraid to zhuzh it up a little.
Zhuzhy. All right, I think that's what we have. Don't forget about the flash sale. That's on the Easy V shirts kits and the Islander shirt kits with the code HAPPY in all caps. You can also read about that in the newsletter.
And if you have any friends that say, gee, I don't want to go on Facebook, but I wish I could do that too, we've put both of those, all the episodes from both of those sew-alongs on our website, on our video page. So instead of them having to go to a friend's house who has Facebook or whatever, telling them how to get in and they're confused, just tell them to go to our video page and they too can have the tutorial. It's exactly the same thing. We just took it off, copied it off of Facebook and put it on our page. Yeah.
You can access the videos on Facebook without having a Facebook account, but I know that can be confusing to some people as well.
Well, people that aren't familiar with social media, it's just way over their head, and I don't want to drive them crazy. But I have a question. How many people out there are watching the latest season of Project Runway? I want to see if you're joining me, because I am loving it. Of course, I love that show. I don't see anybody.
No, nobody.
There's one.
Nobody.
Well, it's on Thursday nights, and you can get it on demand if you've missed it. But it's a good season. It's a good season. They have some interesting designers, and there is one of the ones who's really rising to the top. It's only been 4 episodes, but we're watching her. She's very unique, and she's 64 years old. And she just graduated from design school 2 or 3, maybe 4 years ago or something. And she's just a hoot. And she does a lot of repurposing and very unusual, more wearable, artsy kind of stuff. But one of the first times I've seen an older person on that show that it didn't show. Like when her garment came out on the runway, you didn't go, oh, yep, that's the older lady's garment. No, she's holding her own with the younger people. So I'm watching her and really enjoying that. She's not my favorite, but I like her.
Good. All right, you got a couple of people saying they're watching it. A couple of people say they can't. So,
well, whatever. I would hate to miss it. I would hate it.
It says she's watching the Islander Sewing Systems videos.
Okay.
That's what she's occupying her time.
Well, you're very wise. You're very wise. The other is entertainment. This is education. So that's good. You got your priorities straight.
I don't know. I find you entertaining sometimes.
You do? Mm-hmm. You've never said that before.
I'm pretty sure I've laughed at you.
You have laughed at me. I was hoping it was in a good way.
All right, so we will be back next week, next Tuesday at 2 to do our second segment and we're going to start sewing.
Yeah, we'll be sewing next week. So you'll start sewing this week by getting your thread tracing, your reinforcement, your shoulder seams, and your top stitching. And then you're going to be ready to go next week. And we're going to be lots of construction next week. We'll get quite a ways through the process. But we'll be showing you the hood and the collar. So it doesn't matter which version you're making. We'll show you both.
Alrighty.
I guess I'll make the gold. I don't know. I need to cut one out so we can demonstrate. What do you think?
I think.
Think the gold?
It's
Or-
already laid out and your pieces are on it, so that's what I would go with.
Okay. Well, I was thinking, who's going to wear it? Because I already have 4 or 5. What color do you want? You tell me later what color you
All
want.
right.
We'll cut that out because they're getting piled up around here, you see.
It's not a bad thing. Maybe I could sell some.
Uh-oh. I have a hard time letting go.
All right, we'll see what we can put together for you guys, and we'll be back next Tuesday at 2 Eastern Time with Islander Sewing Systems.
Thanks so much for joining us, and we can't wait to see you again
Yep.
next week.
Have a great week.
Bye.